All right, today we are diving headfirst into one of the biggest, most intense debates in nutrition right now, seed oils. Are they the heart-healthy good guys we've been told about for decades? Or are they some kind of hidden enemy behind our modern health problems? Let's get into it. Think about this for a second. For more than 50 years, the official advice has been pretty clear. But what if that advice, the very thing our food pyramid was built on, was just wrong? Or at least not the full story? That single question is what's fueling this whole controversy. And man, it challenges just about everything we thought we knew about fat. So to really understand what's going on, we have to rewind the clock a bit. We've got to look at the story that put those big plastic jugs of vegetable oil in pretty much every kitchen cabinet across the country. This right here is the classic diet heart hypothesis. And the idea was super simple. Saturated fats, from stuff like butter and steak, they raise your bad LDL cholesterol. And that, everyone thought, leads to heart disease. So the solution seemed obvious, right? Swap them out. Replace them with polyunsaturated fats from vegetable oils like corn, soybean, and sunflower oil. And just like that, this became the gospel of public health for generations. But lately, a completely different story has started bubbling up, especially online. It's a powerful counter-narrative that points the finger not at butter, but at the very oils we were told were so good for us. So what exactly is their argument? Okay, so according to the critics, the main villain in this story is a molecule called linoleic acid. It's the main omega-6 fatty acid in these oils. And they argue, number one, that we are eating way more of it than we ever did before, and number two, that this type of fat is really unstable. It oxidizes easily. Basically, it goes rancid inside our bodies, creating inflammation and messing up our metabolism. They're claiming this is the real reason for the explosion in obesity, diabetes, and even heart disease. It's a really compelling story. Almost sounds like a conspiracy, right? But what does the latest cutting-edge science actually have to say about it? Well, to get past all the noise, researchers are now looking for answers in our own DNA, using this incredibly powerful method. It's called Mendelian randomization. Now, I know it sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually genius. Think of it like this. Our genes are dealt out randomly when we're born, which means certain genetic variations can act like a perfect, lifelong clinical trial. If people who have genes that naturally give them higher levels of, say, linoleic acid also happen to have lower rates of a certain disease, that's really strong evidence that the substance itself is protective. It helps scientists cut through all the noise of different diets and lifestyles. And get this, when they used this genetic method, a huge study in 2023 came to a conclusion that was, well, pretty shocking. It completely contradicted the whole seed oils are toxic narrative. What they found was that having genetically higher levels of linoleic acid was actually linked to a lower risk of type 2 diabetes. And we're not talking about a small, insignificant effect here. The study found that people with these genes, meaning they had higher linoleic acid levels their entire lives, had a 19% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. This is huge. This genetic evidence strongly suggests that inside the body, linoleic acid itself isn't the villain. It might actually be helping us. Okay, so how is this possible? How do we make sense of this? On one hand, you've got top-tier genetic data saying linoleic acid is beneficial. But on the other hand, you have this massive movement of people absolutely convinced it's harmful. Well, the answer might not be in the oil itself, but in what we do to it. So first, let's just be crystal clear about the oils we're talking about. Corn oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, these are everywhere. They are kitchen staples, and as you can see, they are loaded with polyunsaturated fat, which is mostly that linoleic acid we've been talking about. But their chemical makeup makes them pretty fragile, especially when they're exposed to one thing, intense heat. Think about what happens in a deep fryer. When you heat these oils over and over again, a whole chemical chain reaction kicks off. Research shows that first, water from whatever you're frying starts to break the oil structure down. Then, the combination of air and super high heat causes oxidation, creating all these new, potentially nasty compounds. Finally, the heat itself creates totally new molecules, things that just weren't there in the fresh oil. The oil is fundamentally transformed. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Scientists can actually measure how broken down the oil is by tracking something called polar compounds. These are the new molecules that form during heating. And it's such a known issue that many countries have actual laws saying that once these compounds hit 25% of the oil, you have to throw it out. The fresh, healthy oil you started with has become something else entirely. So this brings us to the very heart of the matter. We have these two very different sets of evidence that on the surface seem to completely contradict each other. But maybe they're not contradictory at all. Let's just lay it all out. On one side, you have the genetic evidence. It looks at the lifelong effect of the oil's natural components inside the body, and it finds a protective effect against diabetes. Then, on the other side, you have the food chemistry evidence. It shows what happens when you blast that same oil with high heat before you even eat it. You create a soup of brand new compounds. The thing is, both of these can be true at the same time. And that leads us to the final and most important question. The evidence doesn't really seem to point to linoleic acid as being some kind of metabolic poison. Instead, it suggests the real danger might come from industrial processing, and especially the high-temperature cooking that can turn a potentially healthy nutrient into something, well, not so healthy. Maybe the real villain isn't the seed, after all. Maybe it's the deep fryer.